I know nothing about Pokemon.
And lucky for you, I know a lot. So come check out Season 2 of Top 5 Nintendo, where we'll be ranking and discussing all things Pokemon.
See you there.
In this episode, David gets together with Dakota and Nathan from the Switch Clicks podcast to build a top 10 Zelda trailers list. Hello and welcome to another Zelda podcast. I'm David Geisler, your host for this episode, and I would like to welcome you to a very special episode of another Zelda podcast. A few months ago, the Switch Clicks podcast reached out to my co-producer, Celeste Roberts, and the team over there at the Switch Clicks said, hey, we're going to be doing a Zelda month. We're going to be celebrating everything that's Zelda for the month of November. And Celeste brought it to me in one of our production meetings, and I thought it was a great idea. And we were hoping to have both Celeste and I on the show, but schedules just didn't work out the way it worked out. So after a little bit of back and forth with the Switch Clicks, I joined them to do a top 10 trailers episode. But the initial pitch was that the Switch Clicks wanted to kind of do something where we did the first half of the show as a AZP episode and the second half of the show as a Switch Clicks episode, or vice versa. And we went back and forth on Discord for a number of weeks, honestly, trying to figure out, well, okay, what is it? What is that? Are we interviewing each other? Are we asking questions? Because, of course, here on Another Zelda podcast, we don't often do guests. We don't really consider ourselves a guest-based interview style show, but we have done some special things like speaking with the Zelda cast, where we recorded one episode over on our feed, and then we did an episode on their feed. And then, of course, things like Linktober, and back in, I think it was season 3, I was on as a guest for Lore Party, and then, of course, they joined me for an AZP episode. So this is a little bit of an experiment here. The first half of this episode will be an AZP episode, and the second half of the episode will be over on the Switch Clicks feed, a little bit like when I kind of do those Studio Demands It bonus episodes for Another Zelda podcast. The Switch Clicks aren't necessarily a 6.5 show, but they're definitely friends of 6.5, I guess you could say. Certainly after we got together to record. So as this episode is posting right now, which we decided would be 3 p.m. on November 23rd, the second half of this episode is also over on the Switch Clicks feed, and there's a link to that episode in our show notes right now. So I'm going to get into a little bit of listener feedback, and then I'm just going to queue up this recording. It was actually a blast. It kind of felt like a party. It was weird. It was like, oh, let's throw the party over at AZP's house, and then everybody run over to the Switch Clicks house and keep having the party. But anyway, let's see. Here I have something. Oh, Kenzel A over on, it looks like YouTube, commented on the Forest Dungeons episode. This is our second episode ever of the entire show. Back in probably early 2018, Forest Dungeons Season 1, Episode 2, Kenzel A says, great show. I've only been listening for about 2 weeks and almost caught up. Whoa, Kenzel, you've been moving. One thing I wanted to mention in regards to blowing into the DS, you can just rub your fingers back and forth on the mic and get the same result. This way you don't have to hyperventilate. Smiley emoji. Keep up the great content. Thank you very much, Kenzel. That's funny. I know, I'm sure, in the Forest Dungeons episode, we've said it so many times on this show, Kate and I, or whoever's on the show with me, we've talked about how, obviously one of the DS gimmicks is that there's a microphone and that you can peak that microphone by blowing into it. A lot of people say that they'll shout real quick instead of blow, but that can also be kind of weird if you're like on public transportation or a bus or something, and all of a sudden you're like shouting at your DS. This is a great little hack. Rubbing your finger back and forth over the microphone, it sounds like, Kenzel, will also peak that microphone. Good to know. Very cool. Our second listener feedback here is from Amy Johnson over on Facebook, this looks like. Could be Instagram. It's hard to tell these days. And this is replying to Season 5, Episode 8, The Music of Twilight Princess. This is one that Kate and I did in this season not too long ago. Amy Johnson says, I just have to say I am not a gamer. I have no interest in video games or anything related, but I have a 13-year-old son. And this son desperately wants to be like his friends. So Zelda was our compromise. I'm assuming his friends play video games. And even though I cannot stand all the YouTube and such, I have quite enjoyed your podcast. Oh, well, this is great, Amy. Thank you. We found it about a year ago. We listened to several Zelda podcasts before, and I said, okay, I can handle that one. I'm guessing she's talking about another Zelda podcast. It is what we do together. Oh, okay. I'm commenting too much. It is what we do together. I want him to know his passions are important to me. Thank you for having a podcast that is great for a fan, but also great for not a fan. Your podcast has the feel of the more intellectual podcasts I enjoy listening to, and not just all about a video game. Please do not take that in a condescending tone. No, I most definitely do not. I take it as a compliment. Amy, thank you so much. It was not meant that way. I just want my teen to be well-rounded. All this is to say, thank you for bonding moments. Oh my goodness. Amy, thank you for enjoying the show. You are welcome here. Thank you so much for your kind words. It is, I mean, to be honest, this is, you've kind of like, if AZP had a mission statement, you've basically pointed it out. We absolutely try to, we actively try to be a family-friendly show. I always tell Kate and the rest of the AZP team, we really like to like things. It's okay to have critiques, but at the end of the day, we're trying to celebrate video games. We're trying to celebrate video game creation and the creativity that goes into these things. And these days, I mean, we're in our 5th season now. We're starting to celebrate fandom communities as well, and wrapped around the Zelda series. And the fact that you're able to listen to it with your son just warms my heart. We do hear this from time to time, that parents are able to listen to the show with their kids, and it means a lot. It means a lot to me personally, and everybody on the AZP team. I know it because this is something we don't preach it, we don't speak about it too much, but it is part of our goal. Amy Johnson, thank you so much. That was very kind words. I'm so happy that you're able to have this time with your son, and go Zelda. Whoever your 13-year-old son is, like, play all the Zelda games. That's awesome. They are great. I think every single Zelda game is an exercise in creativity, in strategy, in puzzle solving, and that's actually why I love the series. All right, our third and final one here is from Steve Weir. I think Steve Weir is actually a new Patreon patron. He actually messaged me, a little behind the curtain here. He messaged me the other day because I accidentally set one of the episodes the wrong way, and he reached out and said, "Oh, hey, it's not showing up on my, magical sword tier. Maybe you clicked something wrong." And he was 100% right. I went right into our account and I clicked the wrong check boxes, and I was very grateful for his quick feedback there. Anyways, Steve Weir here says, it looks like probably not on Facebook. This is Messenger. Okay. Steve says, "Hi, David and Kate. I just recently found your podcast and have started with season 1. I'm up to season 1, episode 23. I love the podcast. I love how, at least so far in the first season, you guys don't claim to be experts, but are true enthusiasts and fans of the show. I'm a huge Breath of the Wild player, but have played a number of Zelda games over the course of my life. A Link to the Past was a favorite of mine, until Twilight Princess and then Skyward Sword. Now I'm a huge Breath of the Wild fan. I've beaten the game at least 6 times so far. 6 times! Oh my gosh. Steve, you got to let me know. How many times was it master mode? How many times was it normal mode? How many times were you completing? How many times were you just doing the champions? You got to let me know what your play experience was. 6 times is awesome. I'm sure you experienced the game in a different way every single time. And he continues, and continue to play each time, searching for new secrets and nods to previous games. Yeah, of course. Only once have I ever gotten to the 100% with all Korok seeds." Well, he's kind of answering my question right here. "Upgraded all armors, every item in inventory, etc. I'm a bit OCD." Oh, I hear you, Steve. Anyway, I love the podcast, and you've inspired to start... Wait, what? "And you've inspired to start my own podcast, which will occasionally mention my love for Zelda games. Still very much so in the planning and thinking stages, but you've been an inspiration. Keep up the great work, and I presume you have since you're up to season 5. I just need to catch up." Oh my gosh, Steve. Yes, make a show, make a podcast. Podcasts are the best. There's been a lot of people that have... we've actually weirdly gotten a lot of feedback from people who listen to the show that then say, "Hey, I want to go make my own show." And that's the whole point. That's really inspiring. That's really great. Go for it, Steve. If you have any questions at all, reach out to me. All right, so let's do this. It was Dakota and Nathan and we got together on Discord. There was a small delay in our connection, but it was really a blast to hang out with these two gentlemen. and talk about some of our favorite Legend of Zelda trailers. Without further ado, let's get into it right now. Hello and welcome to another Zelda podcast. I'm David, your host tonight, and tonight I am joined by two other hosts, and they're hosts and guests. I'm actually very excited about this. We have Dakota and Nathan on the show from the Switch Clicks. I guess, gentlemen, why don't you say hi, Dakota first?
Okay, put me on the spot. Hi, I'm Dakota. I do most of the graphics and content creation on the Switch Clicks. These guys just write it.
Hey, different skill sets. So Nathan, are you one of the writers then?
Yes, indeed I am. I'm also the transcriber of the channel, so if you ever decide to pop in those captions, they're all written by me.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, we kind of have I'm very excited about this kind of experiment that we're doing tonight. The Switch Clicks, you're celebrating a month-long Zelda month right now, isn't that right? Would you like to talk to our AZP audience about that a little bit?
Yeah, basically, this is the second time we've celebrated Zelda month in the month of November. What we do is we just move all our content towards Zelda. So we do 4 or 5 podcast episodes, and we discuss and we interview online creators, and they're all usually towards the Zelda content. And then on Sundays, we upload Play It by Tier reviews, which is our review series. And Nathan writes a review, and I get to edit that as well. And then later this month, we're actually doing a Triforce trivia game show, which will be live on our Discord channel.
That's right. Yeah, you also, I think you did the Triforce trivia in Linktober this past summer as well, which AZP also participated in. Not the trivia, but just Linktober.
Yes, the Linktober Zelda Creator Con.
So you've had a couple guests on the podcast already this month celebrating Zelda, and I know that I'm not sure if it was Nathan or Dakota, but one of you reached out to my co-producer Celeste, I believe, and we started talking about things that we could try to do to have the two shows celebrate each other during this very special month.
Yes, that would be Dakota.
I beg your pardon. Oh, that was Dakota?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. So here's the thing. We love to do, when we have guests on AZP, we love to do like just something simple, like a top 10 list. It's a great way to just keep the conversation going and have there be a lot of fun things to talk about. And we're going to do an experiment tonight. We have a top 10 list built, and it's going to be top 10 Zelda trailers, top 10 trailers. Dakota and Nathan, you've built a list of 5. I've built a list of 5. And we're going to, in classic AZP style, we're going to build a top 10 list by adding them all together. But we decided to put a little bit of a twist on it here because all 3 of us agreed we really wanted to try to figure out a way for each show to support the other. So we're going to put the first half of this top 10 list on AZP in this episode that people are listening to right now. And then at the quote unquote break, we're actually going to jump over and we're going to do the second half of the show on the Switch Clicks feed, aren't we? Hello, is anyone there?
Yep. Sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know if you chopped. I think you might have chopped off for me.
Oh, did I?
Yes, I heard a bit of a cut there, but
I could start
that's
over
fine.
somewhere. We don't usually edit AZP episodes, but I was just saying that we're going to have the second half of this episode over on the Switch Clicks feed, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I will get us started here. I'll get us going, and then I can't wait for the second half of this episode to sit back, let the Switch Clicks drive, and just be a guest on your show as we find our final top 3 here for this top 10 list.
Yeah.
let's do this.
Well, I tell you what. I wonder if. How about this? Why don't I have you two go first? We'll go 5-1, our least to top. I wanted to ask real quick, what was your criteria for what a Zelda trailer was? Because I almost put a couple promos on my list. I almost put a couple commercials on my list, but I think I was able to keep it to trailers.
Generally speaking, the trailers would usually be showcased exclusively through live streams such as Nintendo Directs or just a general press conference per se. I think the runtime it'd have to be probably past a minute or so to be qualifying as a trailer. Maybe have some information that such as release dates, but it won't like give you information like narration, retail, that sort of stuff. Additionally, it would have a lot more a cinematic approach towards it rather than simply selling the game to you. Probably some in-game dialogue or some dramatic music, that sort of stuff.
I concur. I think I use the exact same criteria. So I think we're going to have a pretty solid list here tonight. Could I invite either of you to get us started with your first at the bottom? In other words, your number 5 of top 10 Zelda trailers.
Sure thing. So our fifth, I guess you'd say least top favorite Zelda trailer would be the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time 3D trailer showcased on E3 2011. This was almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original Ocarina of Time trailer showcased for the N64. I don't remember when they showcased it, but it was the one where they played Conan the Barbarian music and had like the fancy fire in the background of the fonts. And the 3DS remake had the same trailer, same music, and almost the same cutscenes everywhere, through and through.
Yeah, I remember this trailer. That was a good one. And I'm so happy that you can't quite remember when the first one came out because it may or may not appear on my list a little later up. I can't wait to speak to that.
Okay, we'll see about that.
A little spoiler alert. It was in 1995, but we'll get there when we get there. Yeah, I remember this trailer. I remember the first time I saw it. I didn't fully remember that it was exactly the same shots, and I just thought, okay, cool, 64 higher res graphics, or textures and stuff, looking good. And it wasn't until years later when I kind of through the fandom realized how much it really was a shot for shot remake that I started to actually appreciate it.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising, like to see Nintendo do something like this. Because you wouldn't expect anything from I don't like you can't really predict them to do something like this. You probably expect them to do something a little more modernized, with Ocarina of Time music being played, but instead they chose to actually just go for a shot for shot remake this time.
Did they stick with the Conan music? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. The exact same music.
I love it.
They even put the fire effects and the same font. I don't remember what font it was, but most of the trailer words were all the same too.
Yeah, there were a few. This is coming back to me. There was something at the end that was like a slightly different, a little slightly more like aggressive word or something like that. But basically, the verbiage was exactly the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thou dost not suck or something like that.
Yeah. Yes, I don't. Yeah, that was a really strange one from the original, and then they changed it up to feel a little more, I guess, natural flowing for what a medieval fantasy adventure game would look like.
Indeed.
I find the camera angles are almost kind of awkward when it's in HD like this. Not in HD, but better res. For some reason, it just looks awkward. Is that wrong?
Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah. Like for some reason, they have a shot in the middle of it where I think Link is in a lake, and they stay on it for way too long.
I think
I don't even know if that's in the original.
If it is shot for shot, I am absolutely guessing right now because I don't have this thing memorized and I don't have it up. But I do remember that one of the things that Nintendo was tremendously excited about with the Nintendo 64 was how well it could handle the alpha channels on polygons. And so they were very excited about how see-through their polygons could be. And so maybe in the original trailer, they were really trying to show off those sweet, sweet water effects. And so when it came to the 3D one, they just kind of had to honor the same shot, but it didn't impress in the way like a single polygon of water impressed back in the late 90s.
It was just water. It was just water at this point.
Yeah, right. But I remember even so definitely Ocarina of Time and even just Super Mario 64 really truly like playing that at a kiosk in a Toys R Us and being able to see through the water was mind-blowing.
Yeah, rather than having like a repeating texture of opaque water moving at like 5 frames per second.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Well, okay, maybe I can move on to my fifth because we even have a little bit of a connection here. Of course, Grezzo was the company that made or remade Ocarina of Time 3D for Nintendo,
Yes,
and then they
indeed.
went on to also do the Majora's Mask game. But
Hmm.
because of that relationship that, well, I mean, you guys probably know this too, but because of that relationship that they made with Nintendo, they were invited to make the full proper remake of Link's Awakening.
Yes, yes, indeed. The one that was
Yes.
one for 2019, Nintendo Switch.
The Link's Awakening trailer for me is my fifth favorite.
Nice.
It's the bottom of my
Nice.
list, but I threw it in there. I'm very excited about what my 4, 3, 2, and 1 are. But as I said, we were joking around a little bit before we started recording, and I did mention that Link's Awakening was my first
Mhm.
Zelda game ever. It's very
Yeah.
close to being one of my favorite Zelda games ever. I mean, I think there's, Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild for me are like really, really special, but Link's Awakening is certainly in that top three for me. But
Hmm.
I remember thinking to myself when I saw this Link's Awakening trailer, of course, we were all hungry for Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel to
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild back then. It's all we wanted. We had already been waiting 1 or 2 or 3 years when
Yep.
this Link's Awakening trailer came out. But um, at this point in time, you could really only play Link's Awakening maybe on your 3DS by downloading it on the Virtual Console. I
Yes.
still had the cartridge. I would throw it into my GameCube Game Boy player. It was really hard to play Link's Awakening after a while, and I was so pleased to see that Nintendo cared for people to play it again. And I also was so pleased that this art style referenced the original graphics. It didn't make things look too complicated. And for me, I was a very big fan of the tilt shift effect when this trailer came out. Where I thought to
Yes.
myself, yeah, it was like, okay, the graphics are simple, but let's just make them look super real. Well, real may not be long flowing hair. Real may be make it look like it's plastic modelly hair. And I was a big fan of the choices that were made with Link's Awakening, and I remember being very excited about that trailer. How did you guys feel about it?
Well, first time I saw it, like I didn't really know much about Link's Awakening. All I knew is that okay, he's wrecked on a boat, and I think the whole thing is some psychological dream or something. I'm not honestly too sure. But I think when I was watching, probably chances are I was watching it live, and watching it, and then Zelda anime shows up. I'm like, it's Zelda anime.
Yes.
What is this? And then it was, first of all, incredibly well animated and honestly proves that Zelda should get an anime. Other than that,
Hey.
the dichotomy between the reveal of the first few seconds and then the reveal of the chibi toy like, I didn't know what to feel, honestly. But I think I
Well,
came to
yeah.
love how it was edited.
I do agree with you that so whenever I boot it up on the Switch, that I do let the animation play. I just can't skip it. It's just so much fun to see. But it is from a it's tricky because aesthetically, yes, they are of completely two different worlds. They don't even necessarily complement each other. The only thing I can think of is that on the original Game Boy game, they kind of had like, so when Link's Awakening came out in the Game Boy, you weren't seeing a lot of like full screen art. It was still because the Game Boy has that crazy thing where it can only really handle 16 pixels by 16 pixels and everything has to be tile based. That
Mhm.
the fact that they were able to get basically full screen graphics of like Link hanging onto the rope in that opening quote unquote cinematic was graphically impressive. So I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they just wanted something to be really cinematic for the opening, and that's why they chose to go with this animation style. But it in no way informs or complements the rest of the experience. I think you're right.
But I think even to the ending of the actual game, it totally pays off. Throughout the game you almost fall in love with the art style, and then it also adds to the psychological dream of it. So
Yeah,
Yeah, there's just
yeah.
this huge contrast of like you're basically, well, I guess spoiler alerts. You're basically waking up to reality at this point and realizing that what you've been like what's been happening so far, everything's been a dream, and it's been radically different than what you're used to experiencing. But you've been in that dream for so long that you don't even realize it.
Absolutely. And I just, kind of circling back to the trailer of it all, the trailer experience, I know, like many of us, we really were just thinking we were going to get a sequel to the Breath of the Wild trailer. But when
Yeah.
this one popped up and that the kind of the drama. So for me, I think what I realized is a lot of my picks have a certain amount of drama in them.
Mhm.
And there was drama in this animated Link showing up. I remember like watching the water splashing, and I
Yeah.
remember thinking like, wait, that looks a little bit like the screenshot from Game Boy. Oh my gosh, is this Link's Awakening? Is this Link's Awakening? And then of course it was. And so for me that totally fits as my fifth favorite, my fifth thing on my top 5 of
Yeah.
trailers.
It's a totally different perspective for you, probably because you played the game almost like it was your first Zelda game, you said. So
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
a special connection to it. Me, not so much, but
Yeah, fair
And
enough. I mean,
yeah.
I know that I'm a little bit older than you guys, and I actually was in grade school when the first Zelda came out. Like, I was of the group of the kids on the playground talking about this weird gold cartridge and have you played this game called Zelda? And oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And I actually didn't play the first Zelda because I would only hear about it from my friends. I tried renting it once and I didn't know what to do. So my first truly but then when I learned about Link's Awakening, I like asked for it for my birthday or something, and I got it a year later. So that was my first Zelda game, and it was my introduction to the series.
cool.
Yeah, that must have like left such a personal touch. On my end of things, I think I bought the game on like the 3DS Virtual Console back in I think 2014, 2015 or so.
Sure. Yeah.
And as sad as I am to admit it, I played the game, beat the first dungeon, and kind of just dropped it because I just couldn't adjust to the controls. Like they were for modern day standards, obviously they were really primitive. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until the remake came by when I decided to play it, and it was a huge game changer. Like I just blasted my way through the remake without much difficulty, and it was such an experience for me.
Yeah, I think Grezzo made some really smart choices with mapping some of those extra buttons. A little
Mhm.
bit behind the curtain here, one of my co-hosts and I we're trying to play. We are playing Oracle of Ages right now for a future review, and I'm playing it on my virtual console on my 3DS, I think. And then I
Mhm.
gave her my cartridge, and she's playing it on a Game Boy player. But boy, that that only two item that pause, only an item on
Yep,
B, only an item on A, but half the time you need 3 or 4 items in one room. That is
exactly.
that is challenging by today's standards, that's for sure.
Yep.
Well, anyway, what if I may, what is your guys' fourth pick?
Our fourth is a Zelda spin-off slash crossover.
What?
It is the trailer
Yes.
for reveal trailer for Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt and the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda. And it was revealed at an indie world. I don't have a date here, but it was
I
revealed at an indie world.
think it was February 2019 or no, March 2019 Indie World Showcase.
I
So
love
basically
this.
a
I
month,
love this.
basically 1 month after what we just discussed with Link's Awakening.
Was it really
Oh
that
yes,
close?
because
It was
well,
just a
no,
month.
so there was that thing after Breath of the Wild, Nintendo, and they still kind of are trying to do this, but after Breath of the Wild,
Mhm.
I think it was Doug Bowser was very clear about saying he wanted one Zelda game a year, no matter what.
Yes.
And
Yep.
it didn't mean a full Zelda game, but it meant like he wanted the word Zelda or something at least in or on a game every year. And so the way they pace that out is it would be Breath of the Wild, and then it would be something like Crypt of the Necrodancer, and then it would be or the sequel or whatever, and then it would be maybe
Mhm.
an HD remake, and then it would be Link's Awakening, and then it was Age of Calamity, and then it was Skyward Sword HD. I think they're still sticking to it for the most part. So this was kind of part of that experience. So maybe Link's Awakening was announced but to be released a year or two later, because when Crypt of the Neck, what's its full name? Hyrule. What's its full name?
Cadence of Hyrule.
Cadence of
Thank you,
Hyrule,
thank you.
Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda.
It really rolls off the tongue.
Mouthful.
Yeah, yeah. I think when it was announced, it came out fairly quickly. It was only like a month or two later, I thought, or something like that.
It came out in June. Like it was like right after E3, I believe, of that year when it came out.
I see. So, what is it about the trailer that made you want to put it on the list?
I think it's
Oh,
just
Dakota.
the experience and the surprise of Nintendo collaborating with a. It's not a massive company. Like brace yourselves,
Really?
James isn't massive, but I think
Yeah.
the original Crypt of the Necrodancer did make a decent splash when it came out, I think early 2010s.
It was
surprisingly-
fairly early on.
Yeah.
Um,
But
and
then after the trailer, you think about it, and like this is perfect. This is like the perfect crossover for Zelda to cross over with any game. This is on the dot.
Yeah, if not only just because Zelda fans love Zelda music so much.
Exactly, yeah.
And like this was at some random indie world showcase. Like at that point, nobody really, everyone kind of just. I don't want to be offensive to indie developers and whatnot, but at that point, people weren't giving as much high regard towards indie games at that point. Like I know Dakota here, he was a big supporter of indie games. But I know myself, I wasn't at the time until I just sat through watching that Indie World Showcase live, and then I saw that moment where Cadence mentions that she needs help, and then Link and Zelda just pop up out of nowhere. That absolutely blew my mind. And knowing the fact that Link's Awakening was already coming out in that same year, it pretty much overwhelmed me with like we're getting 2 Zelda games in the same year now, and especially one that's music based too. I was a fan of music games, though it has been a while up to that point, and I was kind of hoping to see something a little new, and this definitely hit the spot there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. There's, certainly other eShops have also helped with making it easier for indie games to get out there. But boy, I think these last like 5 years on the Switch, they have just I think I have more indie games than top tier games on my Switch at this point. It's just such an easy way to get that delivery system and to have these publishers be able to make games. They don't have to spend a cajillion dollars on making sure boxes are made and stuff like that. I actually think the indie scene on Switch is wonderful.
It is amazing. Even after that trailer came out, I think we did a podcast episode about what indie studios could mix well with Nintendo IP. I think maybe one of the examples were like Yacht Club Games, the creators of Shovel Knight, which is my favorite game of all time, indie game of all time.
Yeah.
I think I said they would mix well with, I think, the Wario series or the Wario Land series. I don't remember
Kind
the
of the
other ones off
Zelda
the top of my head,
style
but
Wario.
yeah.
And then also the Shovel Knight people, didn't they go on and they're making kind of a Link's Awakening like right now, I think, unless I'm totally confused about this. It's a little mouse character. I can't remember the name. Have you guys seen this at all? It's like a mouse. It's not Tunic or anything like that, but I thought it was the Shovel Knight people.
I
Went ahead.
vaguely know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, there's a top down, looks like Link's Awakening, kind of Zelda like coming out, and I think it's the Shovel Knight people, but I don't know. Maybe I'm super confused.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there.
I would be happy to talk about my 4th pick on my list.
Sure. Let's hear it.
So, in some ways, I think this trailer predates everything we just talked about, but it's still on the Switch. but we still haven't gotten the game. My 4th pick is that early 2019, the first, and I'll call it sequel to Breath of the Wild trailer, because that's basically what they said at the end of that trailer. But the first technically Tears of the Kingdom trailer, where it was mostly a cinematic, if not all cinematic. I can't quite remember. Maybe there was a little bit of gameplay. I thought it was complete. Yeah. And it was very cool to see. It was so different from anything we saw in Breath of the Wild, but yet so similar too, because Link and Zelda look the same. Zelda got a haircut, but like it felt like we were still in that world. It felt like we were under that world. But then for me, I remember the first time watching it, I was very excited about it. But then the first time, after the first couple times watching it, that first time you kind of go like, whoa, what's that? Who's that crazy zombie at the end? Oh, it looks like they've got a malice eye. I don't know. And then, the community started talking about it. And then I kind of started noticing as well. And then everybody got very excited about how all the gems on the forehead of that zombie looking character lined up with the Ganondorf from Twilight Princess. And then, which is technically also from Ocarina of Time, depending on who you talk to. And then it got to a whole nother level of exciting, because then I just watched it over and over and over. And I was like, I think that's Ganondorf from Twilight Princess. Oh my gosh, how does that change the game? Because one critique that my main co-host and I, Kate, had about Breath of the Wild, and we both very much love Breath of the Wild, was that the Ganon entity was essentially a force of nature in Breath of the Wild. And I think that fits the theme of the show, or of the game. But we did posit from time to time on our show AZP here, like, oh, but how would Ganondorf fit into an open world Breath of the Wild game? Like, how would that work? And so when I realized that Ganondorf, at least it was suggested, Ganondorf might at least be a large part of the sequel, I got very excited about that proposition, that concept, that possibility.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure Nathan has ran into his fair share of people talking about it because, Zelda Wiki and whatnot. But honestly, it's surprising that short of a trailer, it's like basically fueled the Zelda, what do you call it? Zelda theory train for 3+ years.
I completely agree. That's all we had to go on.
Yeah. And you heard the most random stuff ever. Like, that is, I think, the official name people are calling is the dehydrated Ganon.
Oh, I love it. That's
and
funny.
people are like, oh, yeah, that's maybe Ganon, or that's not Ganon, or that's all of them, all of the villains. It's like, okay, relax. But it's fun doing that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I don't know if a kind of almost technically Ganondorf. I don't know if Ganondorf is going to be in Tears of the Kingdom, but it would be cool. It would be cool to have some kind of one of the things that I don't want to get too off topic, but one thing that I do pine for a little bit with Tears of the Kingdom is now that we've gotten used to an open world like Breath of the Wild, I still want that, but I would love to return to some of those classic Zelda things inserted back into the open world mechanic. And so if there's a Ganondorf somehow, I remember in one episode months ago, years ago, in fact, Kate and I were talking about like maybe he is also an AI NPC that can move around the open world and he infects things, but we were going way off. But anyway, that trailer was exciting and beautiful and fun to see. And then like 2 days later, when everybody started talking about how it might have been Ganondorf, then it got even more fun and exciting all over again. And that's why I wanted to include it on my list.
Yeah. And how long was it until
What's that?
What's
how long was it until we got the next trailer?
Oh, it was years. Years and years. I think 2 or 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, because 2020 had nothing, and then I think we had to wait until E3 2021 to get the next trailer.
Well, we got the IG Onuma apology before the Age of Calamity trailer.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the dark blue background.
Yep. Yeah, and I think he even had a new haircut or something. But anyway, oh no, that was the other one later on. Like it's really here's the thing: we can speak about IG Onuma announcements more than we can speak about the trailers because there just had to be so many of them. But I'm fine with it. I always say a well baked Zelda game is just a better Zelda game, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I don't want to quote Miyamoto on this, but what he said about delaying games is true in most cases. There are certain games out there that I know have been delayed and didn't perform so well, but we don't talk about those.
What did Miyamoto say?
He said, what was it? I think delayed games are forever good, but rush games are forever bad. I think
I got the direct quote here. He says, "A delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is forever bad."
Forever bad.
I see. Okay, yeah, I like that. I think I agree with that.
And every time something is delayed by Nintendo, everybody posts that on their Twitter.
I see. I haven't seen it. I see. Fair enough. Well, those are our first 4. I think we're going to jump on over to the Switch Clicks feed. And I think we're going to take care of our 3, 2, and 1s and then build the ultimate list there, kind of put it all together. By the way, before we started recording today, I did reach out to some of our Another Zelda podcast fans on Twitter, and they gave us a bunch of, I guess, honorable mentions. So if we do have any duplicates on our list here by the time we finish up over on the Switch Clicks side, maybe we can source some of their input to fill in the blanks.
For sure.
That sounds good.
So I'm going to, AZP listeners, thank you so much for being here with us. You know where to find us, Another Zelda Pod on Twitter, Another Zelda Podcast on Instagram, and all the things, AnotherZeldaPodcast.com. Our regular listeners know where to go. Switch Clicks, if people don't have the time to go listen to the second half just yet, we're releasing these on the same day, I think, even, right? Isn't it anyway,
we are
about that later,
on the exact same day.
We're doing the same day. So that'll be tons of fun. But if you have to stop and go to your Thanksgiving dinner or whatever you got to do and then listen to Switch Clicks an hour later, where can people find the Switch Clicks?
Mainly just YouTube. Also, we're the podcast is available on every single podcast platform. Mainly just under the Switch Clicks podcast. YouTube is under the Switch Clicks, which is where we also have the extra content, the play it by tier reviews. We have highlights of Triforce trivia. We also have sometimes gameplay stuff, but yeah, that's mainly what we do on our YouTube. You can also join our Discord or follow us on Twitter, which is just Switch Clicks with an extra S on the end.
Yes, I had to ask you because I almost at replied some other Switch Clicks person, and I just checked with you guys real quick. So it's the double S Switch Click. Well, this has been a blast, guys. I can't wait to jump over onto the Switch Click side here and let you guys kind of steer the ship for the second half of this list. Until then, I want to thank you for joining me over here on the AZP side, and I really wish you luck with your month of Zelda. I hope you did it last year. You're doing it this year. I hope you do it next year. I know that you've interviewed a couple other guests already. Oh, actually, would you like to speak to who some of the other people will be joining? Who some of the other people are that will be joining you on Switch Clicks episodes?
As of right now, we've released episodes with Aaron Grubb, that's a musician. We've talked to Melon Speedruns. He mods Zelda games as well as other video games. Mochi Wei, which she is a fantastic artist. That's the first episode of that month. And if you have extra time, you can go to last year's content, and that was actually just all. We have, I believe, 2 artists, and I think closer to the end of the month, we interviewed Sean Chiplock, which is the voice of Rivali in Breath of the Wild.
Whoa, that's cool. I didn't know that one. I'm going to go back and listen to that. Wow, how'd you guys get that in? We'll talk offline. That's awesome. Very exciting.
Behind the scenes.
Dang, that's cool. That's like it's a Patreon conversation there or something. But anyway, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'll see you. We'll travel through time here, and I'll see you over time and space, and I'll see you over in the Switch Clicks episode, which is, I think if people are listening to this, the Switch Clicks episode is out right now.